What's up, everybody? We are back. Another review. All right, we got Peter David Supergirl as I've been going through these books. I only found the first 3 volumes at Half Price Books, so I don't have volume 4. So this will be it for a sec. I'm going to be transitioning to something else. But this continues with Supergirl 21 through 31, 1000, and Resurrection Man 16-17. I will get volume 4 eventually and will read it eventually. DC stopped production of this line after volume 4, which is about halfway through this series. So there's not, probably not going to get a great resolution from reading this, but you know, everybody says this is kind of the definitive Supergirl. Very bizarre stuff all the way around with Peter David, where there's Supergirl is like this Matrix character who's a shapeshifter who's like combined with Kara Danvers, Linda Danvers, what I don't remember whose name it was. But I think I called her Kara all the way through the last review and I meant Linda. Oh well. Yeah, I think of her as Kara Zor-El. She's not actually Kara. Somebody's going to call me on that in the last video. Leave a lot of angry comments. Oh well, such is the internet, right? Okay. This starts out with this new character who's shown up and he's getting chased and he becomes a big part of this plot here. Linda / Supergirl has spoiled to her parents that she is Supergirl. Her mom's ended up in the hospital, and Ma Kent is trying to talk them off the ledge, basically, going on here. And Supergirl does her fight and ends up kissing this dude who is very interesting through here. So even though they've been developing the romance between Linda and the dude in the redheads, they've kind of like made it a mystery as to who this guy is, which ends up kind of interesting, kind of weird throughout this whole deal. I don't love Leonard Kirk's art, and I mentioned that in the last volume. I think it's just a little too simple. This is actually not a bad panel, but you know, it's partially the coloring also. But we have this huge mystery about this guy. And he kind of reveals himself to Kara in here. He's been around for a few issues already, being developed as that mystery. And we get into another plot line, which I thought I was going to hate this plot line a lot, because basically there's a racist on campus, and I really get annoyed with those plots. I think they get really heavy-handed and kind of stupid, but basically there's somebody talking on campus who you know, some of the minorities don't want talking on campus, and they're threatening to riot and all that. Steele shows up, and he wants to shut it down. He's a little bit of a caricature. He's not as, I mean, most people, like, in real life when they have these, quote, controversies, you know, they don't talk like this, but Peter David made him into, I would say, more of a caricature of that, and then so he's got these, just, you know, sort of, over-the-top race talks in here, and you think, oh gosh, he's a bad guy and they're going to shut it all down and it's going to be obvious, but it's not. So Peter David, even though he sets up what seems like will be the just typical SJW annoying plot line where it's this heavy-handed don't be racist, even though nobody's really racist, and you know it seems to be all they focus on, which there's a lot of comics like that. Instead, Supergirl actually defends his right to speak because people are getting violent at him, and she's like, look, you shouldn't be getting violent just because you don't like somebody's words. And then she, like the media often so does, gets branded as a racist Nazi and all that by the media. And that is more of the moral of the story here than anything else, is that look, people will just take things out of context and do things weird and brand people all sorts of things. Very, very, very deep as far as that goes. And very enjoyable, even though I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it at first. And it just shows there are sort of shades of gray here. It goes into a Resurrection Man crossover, which is by Dan Abnett, and whoever does this art, I love this art. So this Resurrection Man, who did this art? I should look it up. This crossover is neat. I've never read Resurrection Man before, and his powers are Andy Lanning, Butch Guys. Yeah, of course, he's really good. His concept is that whenever he dies, he resurrects, and there's somebody riding his soul, and it turns out to be the founder of Kara's town, and so they cross over together. Very cool. Very weird book to cross over with. It doesn't match the Supergirl feel very much, but once it gets into the Supergirl issues, it works out pretty well. So I enjoyed this crossover a lot, more than I thought I was going to. Look at Bush guy's Supergirl. He does a great job. The art really helped, and Dan Abnett's a wonderful writer also. So great stuff. Really creepy horror here, and she deals with that situation. Now when she comes back, her life's falling apart. Everybody hates her, and she's like, "Hey God, why don't you put a stop to this?" And he says, "Fine," but then warns he won't be there later on. And then she also gets closer with this weird dude who we learn about pretty shortly here. Now we learn is actually this gal who's been hitting on Kara the entire time, and this is where it gets kind of like into the cringy, where it's like kind of they're forcing the gay stuff, where it's like a little much, and I'd rather have not read that. But she reveals her past origin as him, and that's that. And then Supergirl gets very confused. We get the Supergirl 1 million issue, which has this random character, and she's just this person from outer space. It's a very zany one-off comic, which has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of this. Peter David wrote it. Very different feel than the rest of it, but it was still fun. And we get back to the story. Now, in this story, Supergirl, I guess there's a portion of Matrix who didn't come with her into her current form, and so it sort of fights her. I guess that's at the end. I think we're not there yet. We get back into this. As I mentioned, Twilight and the Female Furies showed up in the last volume. Seemed like a throwaway thing, but Supergirl actually spends the next few issues going to Darkseid's planet and dealing with them. Then she comes back, and then it's her Matrix. It turns out this has been set up for a long time. Peter David was really good setting up all of this stuff, but Matrix is stalking everybody, and Supergirl has to confront basically herself. And they eventually merge and have a major problem, and Superman helps her work through it. Very nice storyline right here. So yeah, it gets into some annoying kind of social preaching in this volume, which of course I don't love that much. But the racial one was actually really well handled, and it was actually pretty thought provoking, unlike most of them. Meanwhile, I really like the Matrix storyline and how that goes. So I don't know, it's a mixed bag, but overall it's better than it is not, and a lot of the hooks are captivating, and as they go through the various issues, building the little plot lines with that Matrix stalker, with the God Kid, with this guy, girl, whatever it is, through here, it actually is pretty compelling. So I will be going on to the next volume. I like this better than the last one. I thought the plot started to dial in a lot better here. And so I'll call this an 8 point, I'll just call it an 8 out of 10. A little better than average. Enjoyable stuff from Peter David and the gang. All right, hit that like and subscribe button, and I will be back later on with some more reviews. I don't know what I'm going to do next, since I'm out of my Supergirls here, but we will see.